Lumber Room by Hector Hugh Munro. British writer Hector Hugh Munro was better known by the pen name Saki. He was sent back to England after his mother's death, only to be brought up by his strict aunts. They become the models on which he based many of his characters in his stories. In his writing, he displayed mastery over the short stories form, and his stories depicted the hypocrisies in the society of his time. The large house of the wealthy families of Britain commonly had a lot of old, well-built furniture in them, and more than was to be used in every room at any given time. Every piece was made to order. When not needed, it was neither sold nor discarded by them. At last, one out-of-the-way room was selected to store the pieces that weren't in use. This was called the lumber room. So here in the story, how Nicholas enjoyed his day in the lumber room, we will learn in this lesson. The children were to be driven as a special treat to the sands at Jagborough. Nicholas was not allowed as he was in disgrace. Only that morning he had refused to eat his wholesome bread and milk on the grounds that there was a frog in it. Older, wiser and better people had told him that he was not to talk nonsense. The dramatic part of the incident was that there really was a frog in Nicholas' basin of bread and milk. He had put it there himself and proved the older, wiser and better people wrong. So the aunt had hastily invented the Jagborough trick. Whenever one of the children fell from grace, the aunt planned something of festival nature to the children from which the offender would be debarred. After the children left to the Jagborough, the aunt told Nicholas that he was not to go into the gooseberry garden. "Why not?" demanded Nicholas. "Because you are in disgrace," said the aunt loftily. Nicholas' face took on an expression of considerable obstinacy. It was clear to his aunt that he was determined to get into the gooseberry garden only because she had told him not to. In the afternoon, the aunt spent an hour or two in trivial gardening operations from where she could watch the doors that led to the forbidden area. Nicholas wriggled his way with the obvious stealth of purpose towards one of the doors. In fact, he did not want to get into the gooseberry garden, but he wanted his aunt to believe that he had been through the gooseberry garden in order to keep her on self-imposed sentry duty. Having thoroughly confirmed her suspicions, Nicholas slipped back into the house. But standing on a chair in the library, he reached the shelf on which lay a fat, important-looking key. The key was the instrument which kept the mysteries of lumber room secure from the unauthorized intrusion. Nicholas opened the door of the lumber room and inside he saw interesting objects, like a tapestry picture depicting the story of a man hunting a stag, quaint twisted candlesticks in the shapes of snakes, a teapot fashioned like a china duck, a card sandalwood box packed with aromatic cotton wool and brass figures of hump-necked bulls, peacocks and goblins. Less promising in appearance was a large square book with a plain black covers. Nicholas peeped into it, and behold, it was full of colored pictures of birds. And as he was admiring the colors of the mandarin duck, the voice of his aunt calling his name came from the gooseberry garden. "Nicholas! Nicholas!" she screamed. "You are to come out of this at once. It's no use trying to hide there. I can see you all the time." Presently, the angry repetition of Nicholas' name gave way to the cry for help. Nicholas shut the book and restored it carefully to its place in a corner. Then he crept from the room, locked the door, and replaced the key exactly where he had found it. His aunt was still calling his name when he sauntered into the front garden. "Who's calling?" he asked. "Me," came the answer from the other side of the wall. "Didn't you hear me? I have been looking for you in the gooseberry garden and I have slipped into the rainwater tank. Luckily there's no water in it, but the sides are slippery and I can't get out. Fetch the little ladder from under the cherry tree. I was told I wasn't going to the gooseberry garden, said Nicholas promptly. I told you not to, and now I tell you that you may, came the voice from the rainwater tank rather impatiently. Your voice doesn't sound like aunt's, objected Nicholas. You may be someone who is tempting me to be disobedient. Don't talk nonsense, said the prisoner in the tank. Go and fetch the ladder. Will there be strawberry jam for tea? Asked Nicholas innocently. Certainly there will be, said the aunt, privately resolving that Nicholas should have none of it. Now I know that you are not the aunt, shouted Nicholas gleefully. When we asked Aunt for strawberry jam yesterday, she said that there wasn't any. I know there are 4 jars of it in the store cupboard because I looked. And of course, you know it's there. It was the kitchen maid who eventually rescued the aunt from the rainwater tank. Tea that evening was partaken of in a fearsome silence. The tides had been at its highest when the children had arrived at Jagborough Cove, so there had been no sand to play on, a circumstance that the aunt had overlooked in the haste of organizing the expedition. The aunt maintained the frozen muteness of one who has suffered undignified and unmerited destination in the rainwater tank for 35 minutes. As for Nicholas, he too was silent, in the absorption of one who has much to think about.